So why should you validate your idea? Well, let me start with a story. I started doing my PhD, which I'm pursuing now for the last 3 years. I'm in my final year now. And in my first year, I came up with a startup idea. The idea was a virtual reality app for managing pain. So I started building and learning how to do VR development and building VR apps right from year one. And I literally spent the whole year. So daytime I would do my PhD, evenings I would do my game development, and spent a whole year building this out. And after a year, I thought, okay, now I'm happy with this prototype where I had essentially 3 different versions of a game. And I thought now it's time to give it out to users. So I found about 5 to 10 users to test it on. So the testing day came and I was super excited. I thought this was going to be, I'm going to see so many excited faces and they're going to be super thrilled to play this game. I was really excited. But when the day came, I still remember the scene very clearly. It was a conference room, about 6 to 7 people around the seats. And I gave out the headset to each of them one by one. Everyone started using it one by one, the headset. And so I was surprised because after they took off their headset, they had a neutral looking face, and when I asked them how was it, they were like, it was okay, it was good. It was good, to be honest. It was quite different, and they were really nice people. And that was the problem, because they were really nice. They didn't tell me the blunt truth that it sucked. It was not solving a real problem for them. It was just a nice thing to have. That day was really heartbreaking. I did not give up. I instead pivoted it to a different idea, and for that idea, we took a different route. Instead of building it first, we validated the idea first before we set out to build. By validate, I mean validate with the market, not with your head. But anyways, back to the point. Why validate your idea? So the typical way of going about it is you see the typical programmer, right? So as a programmer, you're very technical. So the typical thing you do is you ideate, you come up with this fancy product, fancy features, AI powered, IoT powered, add in all the buzzwords, and then you release it. And once you release the product after you've built it, you realize that no one wants to buy it. Worse, you realize you don't know how to get people to come to your page and buy it. Marketing and a lack of a real problem that you're solving is a very real problem a lot of technical programmers face, like myself. I'm stereotyping and painting in broad brushes, but as a stereotype, this is what happens. So that's the programmer. Then there's the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur dreams up an idea, sees a larger than life vision, uses his charm and charisma to attract a technical co-founder, builds out a simple prototype, attracts seed investment, then releases the product, and then validates it with the market. So the whole process, starting with ideation to building a team to raising funding and then validating the product, would typically take about a year or a year and a half. And that is again time wasted. So both the programmer's way and the entrepreneur's way, again painted in broad stereotypes, is not a good way of going about it. And so the best way, I believe, is to validate your product idea with the market right at the beginning. And I'm not talking about this fancy market research reports often cited in business plans where they say this industry is about to grow this % year on year, expected to be $20 billion by 2025. In my personal humble opinion, I think they are completely useless, because although they will give you a rough idea of where the entire industry is moving, but it gives you no insight into how your specific product idea would or would not resonate with the market and the users. Instead, there are much better ways of going about idea validation and market research in the initial stages in this digital age. If you ask what are they? Well, there are a few. You can use Google Trends, Google keywords to find search traffic and search volume. You could use competitors' data, go to app stores, find your app's competitors page, and then get the comments and find out problems there. But the best way, in my opinion, is to use this landing page method. So in the next few videos, I will go over these different techniques and how you can validate your idea with your end user right before you build it. So if you ask why go through all this trouble, well, the simple answer is reducing risk. We all know that startups are risky. It's an idea in your head that you are trying to push it out into the market. There's a lot of risk element involved in it. Various reasons why it could fail. And the last thing you want to do is go in with blind optimism, that everything's going to work out because you feel like it. Don't get me wrong, I do believe in the power of intuition. Intuition is powerful. But apart from having an intuitive sense or a third eye for great product ideas, I also think you would need a systematic way of eliminating ideas which have very low probability of success. It's all about probabilities. You want to reduce the risk as much as possible before you start investing time into it. Speaking of time, that is the number one reason why I think we should validate our idea before we build anything. Typically, whether you're going the entrepreneur's route, raising funding and building out a team and then validating the idea, or you're going the technical programmer route where you bootstrap it and essentially build it yourself again for a year or so before you release it. Either way, you're wasting time. You're wasting probably 1 or 1.5 years of your time building out a product that may or may not have a chance of success. That time wasted, you could have instead used that time to build out a different idea, which has a much higher probability for success. Not only does validating your idea save you time from working on bad ideas, but it also gives you upper hand when it comes to raising your investment. So typically when you go the entrepreneur's route, where you have an idea and a good team when you go into your pitch for raising investment, you typically carry a lot of risk with your venture. And that means you probably don't have an upper hand when it comes to negotiating for equity splits. So you might have to give a larger chunk of your company away to the investor. But instead, if you go in with a validated idea in the market, either through using the methods that I will show in future videos, or through actually building a good product that resonated with the market, and you have figures to show it, a nice upward rising graphs in terms of sales or revenue or whatever, because you have reduced the risk for your venture. And that means you have a much more better case for negotiating a good investment raise, a seed raise. Or if anything, just remember this from this video. Do not be like the programmer who thinks his ideas, his fancy features would resonate well with the market. Do not be like that. Do not be like the blind optimistic entrepreneur. I also have that side in me. Do not be like the entrepreneur with a blind optimism where you raise funding and a lot of money and then you release your product later down the line where you never know what happens. Instead, validate your idea, build a product either by yourself or using a team, launch your product, build some traction, then if the market gives you good feedback and there's good signs of growth, raise funding and blow the venture up. So do subscribe, like and share the usual stuff if you are interested in content like this, where we teach not only the technical side on how to build great AR apps for the Apple ecosystem, but also the business side on how to find great ideas and sell them. And I'll see you next week.